Millionaire found a cleaning lady sleeping in the bathroom. What he did next made everyone cry. The digital clock beside Sophia Parker's bed read 11:30 at night when she finally finished tidying up the second-to-last room on the floor. Her eyelids felt as heavy as lead, her shoulders throbbed with exhaustion, and each step was harder than the last. After a week of covering double shifts, cleaning rooms during the day, and filling in for her absent co-worker on the night shift, her body was showing clear signs of exhaustion. Still, Sophia took a deep breath and headed toward the last room of the night, the VIP suite. The door opened with a soft click, revealing the luxurious interior of the room. Crystal chandeliers cast gentle reflections on the cream-colored walls, and the plush carpet muffled her footsteps. Sophia always felt a mix of admiration and discomfort when entering this space, reserved for the wealthiest guests. Taking a deep breath, she gripped the mop handle and walked toward the bathroom. The room gleamed under the warm lighting of golden sconces. The marble countertops sparkled, and the delicate scent of French soaps lingered in the air. Kneeling on the immaculate porcelain floor, Sophia began scrubbing the edge of the bathtub. Exhaustion pulsed in her temples, and the soft sound of water dripping from the faucet created a hypnotic rhythm. "Just 5 seconds," she thought, resting her forehead on her arm and closing her eyes for a moment. Silence enveloped her. The mop slipped slightly from her hand and landed on the floor with a muffled sound. Her breathing slowed. Without realizing it, Sophia drifted off to sleep. The doorknob turned. William Cooper, CEO of the Grand Avalon Hotel, stepped into the suite after a series of exhausting meetings. His dark grey suit was flawless, but his loosened tie betrayed the long day behind him. With firm steps, he crossed the room toward the bathroom, longing for a hot shower before finally resting. As he pushed the door open, his eyes caught sight of a figure crouched beside the bathtub. For a second, his heart jumped in his chest. "What the?" His voice rang out through the bathroom, making the mirrors tremble. Sophia jolted awake. The sudden movement caused the bucket beside her to tip over, spilling water mixed with disinfectant across the floor. The strong smell immediately rose, making her slightly dizzy. I wasn't stealing." The words came out shaky as she scrambled to her feet. "I just closed my eyes for a moment." William raised his hands in a cautious gesture. "Relax. Who are you? What are you doing in my room?" Sophia, realizing the cleaning uniform she was wearing and the embarrassing situation she was in, felt her face flush. Her heart pounded in her chest and her throat tightened. She opened her mouth to explain, but no words came out. Silence stretched between them, broken only by the dripping faucet. "I work here. I'm with the housekeeping staff," she finally managed to say, her voice barely above a whisper. "It wasn't intentional. I just needed a moment." William's gaze, initially rigid, softened slightly as he took in the sincerity in her brown eyes. Something about the young woman's vulnerability, combined with the unusual scene, dissipated his initial irritation. He crossed his arms, observing her with a mix of curiosity and bewilderment. "Do you drink coffee?" he asked suddenly. Sophia blinked, confused. "Yes, but what?" William didn't answer. He turned around, walked to the suite's kitchen, and returned with a steaming cup of coffee. He handed it to Sophia, who took it hesitantly. The bitter aroma reached her nose before she even took a sip. She frowned. "It's bitter." She sniffed slightly. "The beans are burnt. Someone tried to cover it up with sugar, but it only made it worse." A flicker of surprise crossed William's face. "Interesting," he murmured, more to himself. Sophia handed the cup back, still unsure of the purpose of this sudden test. The embarrassment still burned beneath her skin, but William's expression now seemed more thoughtful than accusatory. "Go home and get some rest," he said at last. "But tomorrow morning I want you in my office." Tomorrow? Anxiety tightened in her chest. Am I being fired? William didn't respond immediately. His blue eyes met hers as if searching for something beyond words. Just be there at 9. No delays. And with that he left the bathroom. Sophia stood still for a few seconds, the sound of her racing heart pounding in her ears. She took a deep breath, trying to calm her nerves, before hurrying to clean up the spilled water and leave the suite as spotless as possible. As she gathered the bucket and mop, her mind spun with countless possibilities. What would happen the next day? Was this the end of her job? Or did that mysterious man have something else in mind? With these questions swirling in her mind, Sophia walked through the silent corridors of the hotel, unaware that this unexpected encounter would change her life forever. The clock read exactly 9 o'clock when Sophia Parker stood before the imposing dark wooden door. The golden plaque read, William Cooper's office. Taking a deep breath, she raised her hand and knocked softly. "Oh, come in," a firm voice sounded from the other side. With her heart pounding, Sophia turned the doorknob. William, seated behind a polished mahogany desk, looked up, his piercing blue eyes seeming to assess her in seconds. Beside him, Thomas, the hotel's head chef, observed her with a raised eyebrow. "Sit down," William gestured to the chair in front of the desk. "I imagine you're curious about why you've been called here." Sophia nodded, keeping her hands clasped in her lap to steady her nerves. "What happened yesterday was unusual," he continued, the corners of his lips threatening a smile. "But your perception when tasting the coffee caught my attention. I want to test that talent of yours." Sophia's heart leapt. "Test? How so?" "In the hotel's kitchen, Thomas here will prepare a few dishes. I want you to taste them and identify any flaws," William explained, crossing his arms over his chest. Chef Thomas let out a soft sigh, clearly skeptical. "Mr. Cooper, with all due respect, the kitchen isn't a place for amateurs." "I know, Thomas. That's why this will only be a test," William replied, holding his gaze steady. The chef nodded, though the glint of challenge in his eyes did not escape Sophia's notice. Minutes later, Sophia followed William and Thomas to the main kitchen. The air buzzed with the clatter of pots and the aroma of fresh ingredients. Under the watchful eyes of the kitchen staff, Thomas placed 3 dishes in front of her: a mushroom risotto, a filet mignon with wine sauce, and a delicate chocolate dessert. "Taste each one," the chef instructed, "and tell me what you notice." Swallowing hard, Sophia picked up the spoon and sampled the risotto. The creamy texture melted on her tongue, but something was off. "The rice is slightly overcooked," she said hesitantly, "and the seasoning, it needs a hint of citrus to balance the mushroom's flavor." Thomas's face remained impassive. Sophia moved on to the filet mignon. She chewed slowly before murmuring, "The meat is perfectly cooked, but the sauce, the wine was reduced too much. It's slightly bitter." Finally, she tasted the dessert. The chocolate melted smoothly in her mouth, but the flavor made her frown. "The chocolate, it's good, but there's something off. It's as if the cream has slightly curdled." When she finished, the silence in the kitchen was almost palpable. Some of the cooks exchanged glances, some curious, others skeptical. Thomas, however, maintained his rigid posture. "Not bad," he said at last, giving a slight nod. "For someone without formal training." Sophia bit her lip, trying to decipher whether that was a compliment or a veiled critique. "Well?" William asked, turning to the chef. "She has a refined palate, no doubt. But that doesn't mean she's ready for the pressure of a professional kitchen. That's why I want to offer her temporary training," William interjected, his eyes shifting to Sophia. "This is your chance to show what you can do. What do you say?" Sophia's heart pounded faster. It was a unique opportunity, but uncertainty weighed on her mind. What if she failed? and the inevitable gossip from the staff, many wouldn't take kindly to a housekeeper working in the kitchen. "I need some time to think," she replied, her voice hesitant. "Of course. You have until tomorrow to decide," William said, his gaze carrying a silent promise that this offer could change everything. As Sophia left the kitchen, the staff's eyes followed her, some curious, others filled with judgment. Even so, a spark of hope began to grow in her chest. The sun had barely begun to rise over the horizon when Sophia walked down the corridor leading to the hotel's main kitchen. The white uniform still felt unfamiliar on her body, replacing the simple cleaning apron she had worn before. Each step echoed in her ears like the prelude to something unknown. As she pushed open the double stainless steel doors, all eyes turned toward her. "Look who decided to change careers," someone near the prep counter murmured. Swallowing hard, Sophia kept her head high. Thomas, the head chef, motioned for her to approach. "You're right on time. I need you to taste these 2 versions of the sauce for the gala dinner's main course. I want to know which one is better," he said, handing her 2 spoons. She tasted the first sample, letting the flavor spread across her tongue. "This one is well balanced, but it needs a touch of acidity to contrast with the meat," she commented. Then she tasted the second. "This one has the right balance. The acidity from the white wine enhances the sauce's flavor without overpowering it." Bidil. Thomas made a barely perceptible sound of approval. "Elizabeth, adjust the recipe according to the second sauce." "Of course, chef," replied the sous chef, her voice tinged with disdain. As she passed by Sophia, she shot her a sideways glance. "Don't think that knowing how to tell flavors apart will make you one of us." Sophia's heart clenched, but she took a deep breath, reminding herself why she had accepted the challenge, to prove that her talent went beyond appearances. In the days that followed, she faced the intense routine of the kitchen, the suffocating heat, the constant clatter of pans, and the frantic pace of orders. Still, each dish she tasted revealed a new lesson. Gradually, she began to earn the trust of some colleagues, but others, like Elizabeth, continued to see her as an intruder. One morning, while organizing fresh ingredients, William appeared at the kitchen door. The buzz of conversation ceased for a few seconds, but he merely cast a brief glance in Sophia's direction before heading to Thomas's office. The tension in the air did not go unnoticed, nor did the whispers that began soon after. "He never comes down here without a reason. Could it be because of her?" one of the cooks whispered. "Probably. With that pretty face, it's no surprise," he added another. Sophia tightened the lid on the container she was holding, trying to ignore the comments. But the hostility seemed to grow with each passing day. One particularly hectic night marked a turning point. The hotel's gala dinner demanded flawless dishes in record time. Thomas supervised every step, while Elizabeth managed the team with strict precision. The air was thick with tension and culinary vapors. "Sophia, taste the filet sauce," Thomas ordered. She rushed to the pan, grabbed a spoon, and quickly tasted the sauce. "It's a bit too salty. We need to soften the flavor without thinning the texture too much," she replied, meeting the chef's gaze. Thomas nodded, satisfied. "Good perception. Elizabeth, adjust the recipe." The sous chef pressed her lips together, visibly displeased. Later that night, while storing ingredients for the next day in the pantry, Sophia overheard whispered voices from the other side of the shelves. "Did you see the way William looks at her?" Elizabeth's voice carried a sharp edge. "They say he's had affairs with other employees before. Maybe it's just a matter of time," another employee replied. It felt like the air had been knocked from Sophia's lungs. The words echoed in her mind as she stood frozen behind the shelves. Her pulse pounded in her ears, but before she could process the impact of those insinuations, the sound of the pantry door closing indicated that the two had left. Sophia clenched her fists, her heart torn between the urge to confront the rumors and the need to prove her worth through hard work. Yet deep down, a troubling doubt began to take root. What if there was some truth to their words? She took a deep breath, trying to shake off the unease, but she knew the greatest challenge was still to come. The hum of the kitchen felt louder than ever, but Sophia couldn't focus on anything besides the words she had overheard in the pantry. The gossip had seeped into her mind like a lingering shadow, shaking the confidence she had fought so hard to build. Still, she refused to give up. Every dish she tasted, every adjustment she suggested was an attempt to prove that her talent spoke louder than the rumors. In the days that followed, Sophia's withdrawal did not go unnoticed by William. He observed her from a distance, noting how the smiles that had once been frequent had become rare. On a night with a reduced shift, he decided to approach her. "Sophia, can you come with me?" he asked, his voice low but firm. She hesitated for a moment before following him to a terrace at the back of the hotel. The cool night air contrasted with the heat of the kitchen, but the knot in her chest didn't ease. The illuminated city stretched out before them, but Sophia kept her gaze fixed on the ground, unable to look directly at William. "What's going on?" William asked, turning to face her. "You've been avoiding me and seemed different these past few days." "It's nothing," Sophia replied quickly, avoiding his gaze. "I know that's not true." William took a step forward, the closeness making her heart race. "If it's something you heard, I want you to know that rumors don't define who you are, and I won't let them harm your career." Sophia clenched her hands, struggling against the urge to confide in him. But her pride kept her from admitting the pain caused by the insinuations. "I just want to prove my worth on my own," she said at last, "without relying on anyone." William's eyes gleamed with something indefinable, a mixture of admiration and respect. After a moment of silence, he changed the subject. "There's a culinary event coming up in Paris. I want you to come with me," he announced. Sophia blinked, surprised. "Paris?" "Yes. It'll be an opportunity for the hotel to gain international prestige, and your participation could open doors for your career. I need someone with your talent by my side." The offer was tempting, but the weight of the gossip lingered in Sophia's thoughts. "And what will people say if I go?" she asked, more to herself than to him. "It doesn't matter what they say. What matters is what you achieve through your own effort." William took another step closer, his voice soft yet firm. "Don't let fear stop you from growing." Sophia felt her heart waver between fear and hope. She took a deep breath, trying to silence the doubts that still echoed in her mind. "All right, I'll go," she said softly, but her voice carried determination. William nodded with a slight smile. The decision was made, and what would come next would change both of their destinies in ways they couldn't yet imagine. In the days leading up to the trip, her co-workers' gazes grew even more inquisitive. Elizabeth never missed an opportunity to throw in spiteful comments. "So, the Golden Girl is now off to Paris with the boss? That was quick, huh?" she said with a sarcastic smile. Sophia took a deep breath, ignoring the provocations and focusing on what truly mattered. During her free time, she dedicated herself to studying the main dishes of French cuisine, determined to prove she deserved to be at the event. Each recipe, each detail, was absorbed with diligence. One night, while reviewing her notes in the staff dining room, William approached with a cup of coffee in hand. "Still studying?" he asked, offering her the cup. "I need to be prepared," Sophia replied, accepting the drink. William observed her for a moment, as if trying to decipher her thoughts. "You've already proven your talent many times. You don't need to push yourself so hard." "Yes, I do," Sophia insisted, meeting his gaze. "I can't fail. Not after everything I've been through to get here." William nodded, respecting the determination he saw in her eyes. "Then show the world what you're capable of. In Paris, everyone will know the name Sophia Parker." With those words, he walked away, leaving her alone with her thoughts. Deep down, Sophia knew that this trip would be more than just a culinary event. It would be her chance to redefine her future. The shimmering lights of Paris reflected in the windows of the hotel where Sophia and William were staying. From her room, she watched the bustling streets below, her heart tight with nervousness. The culinary event, held in one of the city's most prestigious halls, would bring together renowned chefs, demanding critics, and the elite of the international culinary world. Sophia knew that tonight could define the course of her career. "Are you ready?" William asked, appearing at the doorway. Sophia turned, adjusting the elegant black dress she had chosen for the occasion. "I think so," she replied, though the uncertainty in her voice was evident. "You're going to impress everyone." William smiled, but Sophia averted her gaze, still affected by the comments she had heard before the trip. The event hall was a spectacle in itself. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ornate ceiling, and the aroma of the dishes being served lingered in the air. As they walked through the space, Sophia could feel curious glances turning toward her. Some smiles were cordial, but others carried judgment. "William, it's been so long," a feminine voice called from their left. Sophia turned and saw a woman with flawlessly styled blonde hair, her red dress hugging her curves with elegance. The smile on her lips didn't quite reach her eyes. "Charlotte," William replied with a nod. "It's good to see you again." Dodgy. "And this must be Sophia Parker," Charlotte said, her gaze sweeping over Sophia from head to toe. "I've heard quite a bit about you, especially the rumors." Sophia's stomach twisted, but she maintained a steady expression. "I hope you'll hear more about my work," she replied politely but firmly. "We'll see if your talent is as remarkable as they say." Charlotte flashed a sly smile before walking away. "Don't pay attention to what she says," William murmured, lightly touching Sophia's arm. "What matters is what you're here to show." Minutes later, the decisive moment arrived. One of the event's main dishes needed last-minute adjustments, and Thomas, the hotel's head chef, asked for Sophia's opinion. "Taste it and tell me what you think," he said, handing her a spoon. Sophia tasted the sauce, closing her eyes to focus on the flavors. "It's almost perfect, but it needs a subtle touch of acidity to balance the meat's flavor. Maybe a bit of balsamic vinegar would do the trick," she suggested. Thomas nodded and quickly made the adjustment. When the finished dish was served to the renowned critic Alexander Turner, everyone waited in silence for the man's reaction. "Interesting," Turner murmured after taking a bite. "The balance of flavors is impressive. Who suggested that adjustment?" "She did," Thomas replied, indicating Sophia. The critic's eyes settled on Sophia with genuine curiosity. "I see we have a remarkable palate here. I'd like to speak with you later, Miss Parker." Sophia's heart raced. This was the opportunity she had dreamed of, but the moment was interrupted by the sound of a cell phone vibrating in William's pocket. He glanced at the screen, frowned, and stepped out to take the call. Meanwhile, Charlotte reappeared beside Sophia, a nearly triumphant smile on her lips. "You know, William has a complicated history with employees," she said casually. "I was close to him once myself. Maybe you should think twice before getting too involved." Sophia felt her chest tighten, but she had no time to respond. A growing murmur spread through the hall, drawing her attention. Looking around, she noticed several people checking their phones. "Looks like you two are making headlines," Charlotte whispered, holding out her phone. Sophia froze. On the screen was a photo of her and William standing side by side, captured in a moment when he lightly touched her arm. The headline hinted at a secret romance between the CEO and the hotel's young prodigy. The world around her seemed to blur as her heart pounded erratically. William returned to the hall, his gaze immediately finding hers. But this time, the tension in the air felt impossible to ignore. Returning to the hotel didn't bring the relief Sophia had hoped for. As soon as she walked through the hallways, she felt the furtive glances of her colleagues, some filled with judgment, others with disdain. Whispered conversations fell silent the moment she approached, but the echo of unspoken words still seemed to reach her. "Looks like the dinner in Paris brought more than just culinary experience," Elizabeth murmured as she passed by, her tone sharp. Sophia clenched her fists, holding herself together. Ignoring the comments had become a daily battle, but that particular remark hit a vulnerable spot. The photo from Paris, which had circulated on social media, had fueled speculation that she had earned her position due to her closeness with William. No matter how hard she tried to focus on her work, the pressure was becoming unbearable. During a break, Sophia walked to the hotel's terrace, seeking fresh air. The sky was painted with hues of sunset, but the beauty of the landscape couldn't calm the storm inside her. Then the sound of footsteps made her turn. "Seems like Paris was unforgettable for you," Charlotte said, appearing with a sly smile. Sophia took a deep breath, bracing herself for the confrontation. "I don't have time for your games, Charlotte." "Oh, but I have something that might interest you." With a theatrical gesture, Charlotte held out her phone. On the screen, another photo, Sophia and William dining together at a Parisian restaurant. The image captured the moment when William leaned slightly toward her, enough to appear intimate to anyone unaware of the context. "What do you want?" Sophia asked, keeping her voice firm despite her racing heart. "Just to open your eyes. William has a history of getting close to employees. You're nothing more than a temporary distraction. When he gets bored, you'll be discarded like the others." The words cut deeper than Sophia wanted to admit. Before Charlotte could say anything else, Sophia turned and walked away, each step echoing in the silent corridor. Hours later, she found William in his office. The air, heavy with tension, seemed to grow heavier when she closed the door behind her. "We need to talk," she said, remaining standing as if sitting down might weaken her resolve. "Did something happen?" William looked up, concern etched on his face at her expression. "Charlotte showed me another photo, the two of us, at dinner in Paris. She said you have a history of involvement with employees. I need to know the truth." William was silent for a moment, as if carefully choosing his words. "I've never used my position to favor anyone, Sophia. Yes, there was one time, but it wasn't what people are insinuating, and what I feel for you is different." He stepped closer, his gaze sincere. "I never wanted things to reach this point, but I can't deny what I feel." Sophia took a step back, her heart conflicted. "And what am I supposed to do now? Pretend the rumors don't exist, that everyone in the hotel doesn't see me as someone who got ahead because of you? No, you're here because of your talent. I saw your potential from the very beginning. Don't let the words of bitter people define your path." But the weight of the situation had already settled too deeply within her. The feeling that her career was now tainted by something beyond her control squeezed her chest. "I can't live like this anymore, William. Every look, every whisper, it's suffocating me. I need some time away from here." "Sophia." William reached out as if to stop her, but she stepped back. "Please, don't make this harder." Silence stretched between them. With a heavy heart, Sophia turned and walked away, leaving behind not only the man who had awakened feelings she hadn't expected, but also the place where her life had begun to change. And despite the pain, deep down, she knew this departure was necessary to rediscover herself. The days following Sophia's departure were marked by a frenzy of headlines and speculation. The press, hungry for scandals, turned the story into a public spectacle. Gossip websites published photos and sensationalist articles, insinuating that Sophia had earned her position thanks to a secret romance with William Cooper. Social media buzzed with comments, divided between those who defended her and those who accused her. Headlines ranged from questionable rise, the maid who won over the CEO, to talent or favoritism, the case of Sophia Parker. Inside the hotel, the atmosphere was tense. Employees exchanged furtive glances, and William noticed the whispers that followed him wherever he went. Guests asked indirect questions during events, increasing the pressure. Sophia's absence was a constant weight, but the CEO knew he had to act before the situation affected not only her reputation, but also that of the Grand Avalon. The nights grew long and lonely, with William mentally replaying every moment that had led to this point. The next morning, William called a press conference. The hotel's main hall was prepared for the event, with cameras and reporters from various outlets positioned in front of the podium. The buzz grew as journalists arranged their notes and equipment. The air was thick with expectation and tension. When William appeared, the camera flashes lit up the room. Dressed in an impeccable suit, he walked up to the microphone, his gaze steady and determined. "Good afternoon. I've invited you all here today to clarify the recent rumors involving my personal life and the career of Miss Sophia Parker," he began, his voice resonating with authority. "First, I want to make it clear that Sophia earned her place through her exceptional talent. From the moment I met her, I was impressed by her unique sensory ability, capable of identifying nuances that many experienced chefs cannot." The flashes continued as William spoke. "The adjustments she made to the dishes at our hotel earned praise from renowned critics such as Alexander Turner and significantly contributed to the prestige of our cuisine. Any insinuation that her rise is due to a personal relationship is not only unfounded, but also unjust. Sophia worked hard to get where she is and deserves to be recognized for her merit." The murmurs began to fade as William continued. "As for my feelings for Sophia, I won't deny that they exist. However, that has never influenced the opportunities she received. My respect for her goes beyond professionalism, but my decisions at the hotel have always been guided by the talent and dedication of each team member. I understand the consequences of exposing my personal life, but the truth needs to be told." The reporters exchanged glances as they typed rapidly, aware of the significance of his statement. "Finally, I hope this announcement puts an end to the rumors and allows Sophia to continue her career without the weight of unjust insinuations. Her story is proof that dedication and talent can overcome any obstacle. Thank you." Before questions could begin, William stepped away from the microphone and headed for the exit. Even as reporters called after him, he didn't look back, determined to keep the focus on the message he had delivered. Across the city, Sophia watched the press conference on her phone screen. She was seated at a table in the small cafe where she had sought refuge over the past few days. Each of William's words echoed in her chest, dissolving part of the doubts that had tormented her. The tears came before she could hold them back, warm and silent, as images of the man who had changed her life filled the screen. "Sophia, are you okay?" asked the waitress, a young woman with a kind smile. Sophia nodded with a timid smile. "I'm better," she replied, her voice thick with emotion. News of the press conference quickly spread across social media. Comments like, "She deserves the recognition," and "William showed what integrity means" began to appear on posts. Videos with clips from the conference reached thousands of views, and hashtags like "Day of Justice for Sophia" and "Very Proud to be Parker" started to trend. As the digital world shifted its tone, Sophia felt her heart grow lighter, as if an invisible chain had finally broken. William had not only defended her, but had also admitted his feelings without fear of the consequences. She closed her eyes for a moment, allowing herself to absorb that moment of hope. Then, with a deep breath, she knew that the next step was hers to take. Sophia's return to the Grand Avalon was met with a mix of curiosity and respect. The distrustful glances from before had given way to cordial greetings, and the sound of malicious whispers had faded. As she walked through the hallways, her heart warmed at the realization that her talent was finally being recognized. "Welcome back, Sophia," said Thomas, the head chef, with a sincere smile. "Thank you, it's good to be back," she replied, feeling that this moment marked the beginning of a new chapter. In the weeks that followed, Sophia dedicated herself fully to her role as a flavor specialist. Her opinion was sought for nearly every dish on the menu, and even Elizabeth, once so hostile, now treated her with respect. Alexander Turner, the renowned critic, made a point of publicly praising Sophia's work in a culinary magazine, further solidifying her position in the culinary world. One night, after the conclusion of a special event at the hotel, William asked Sophia to accompany him to the nearby beach. The gentle breeze carried the sound of the waves, and the starry sky seemed to silently watch over the couple. They walked side by side until they reached a delicately decorated table by the shore. White candles in glass lanterns illuminated the setting with a soft glow, reflecting off the wine glasses. "All this is for me?" Sophia asked, surprised. "For us," William corrected, pulling out a chair for her. "I wanted tonight to be special." Dinner unfolded with laughter and shared memories. William, ever attentive, watched every expression on Sophia's face as if trying to etch the moment into his memory. When dessert was served, a chocolate fondant with a hint of citrus in honor of Sophia's refined palate, William gently took her hand. "Sophia, from the moment I found you in that suite, my life changed in ways I never imagined. You brought light into my days and taught me to see the world through new eyes." He stood up, kneeling before her as he pulled a small velvet box from his pocket. "Will you share the rest of your life with me?" Sophia covered her mouth with her hands, her eyes glistening with emotion. "Yes, William, 1,000 times, yes," she replied, laughing through her tears. He slipped the ring onto her finger, sealing the moment with a gentle kiss as the sound of the waves whispered around them. Time flew by after the engagement. Sophia and William were married in an elegant ceremony in the hotel's garden, surrounded by friends, family, and colleagues. White and lilac flowers adorned the space, and the sound of violins filled the air as Sophia walked down the aisle in a classic lace gown. Months later, on a sunny morning, Sophia received news that would change their lives forever. Holding the pregnancy test in her hands, she sought out William, who was in his office reviewing reports. "William," she called, her voice trembling slightly. Looking up and noticing the emotion on her face, he immediately stood. "What is it, my love?" "We're going to have a baby," she revealed, showing him the test. For a moment, the world seemed to stand still. William embraced her tightly, his heart bursting with happiness. "We're going to be a family," he whispered, kissing her forehead. Months later, on a golden summer afternoon, the couple walked along the beach, no longer alone. William held Sophia's hand, while the other rested gently on her already rounded belly. The horizon, painted in shades of orange and pink, reflected on the calm waters. "I can't wait to meet him," William said, lowering himself to speak near Sophia's belly. She smiled, her eyes shining with the promise of the future. "Our little one is already loved more than he can imagine." Together they stood there, watching the sea as the waves whispered stories of hope, love, and new beginnings. And so, beneath the twilight sky, the most beautiful chapter of Sophia and William's life began. A story of overcoming obstacles, true love, and dreams that had come true. I hope you enjoyed today's story. If you did, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss more stories like this. Leave a like and comment below what you thought about the story. See you in the next video.